The plot thickens in East Ukraine. We've known for weeks now that there are foreign fighters there who are supporting the Separatists in East and Southeast Ukraine. But now we're finding out one of the origins of them, and it's a scary thing. It's possible that some of them are being shipped to Ukraine from Chechnya and some of the other separatist republics in that area. If you know anything about the politics of that region, the terrorism of that region over the past, again, 14 to 15 years or so, you should be scared by this. I'm sure the Ukrainian government is not a fan of it. Now, apparently one of the problems in Ukraine right now is that their border with Russia is essentially completely open. And every day there are truckloads of foreign fighters moving into Ukraine from Russia, from Chechnya and other countries to support the separatists there. This is from one of the border security officials. They said, our border, especially in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, has become a front line that various terrorists are trying to break through. Now, we have repeatedly stressed the importance of this on TYT in the past. Vladimir Putin does not need to move in Russian military to completely destabilize the Ukrainian government and pave the way for an occupation by Russian forces of Ukraine. He doesn't need to do that anytime soon. If he's able to move in hundreds and eventually thousands of foreign fighters, they'll do all the work for him. And as we speak right now, the newly elected government of Ukraine is trying to fight back. In some of the cities, by the way, for instance, Sloviansk, which we've talked about a couple of times before, where there has been fighting for weeks now. And it's incredibly hard for the Ukrainian military to do anything about it because they're not amazingly equipped, they're not amazingly trained, and there is justifiably a lot of fear about engaging in urban warfare against these troops there. Now, on the side of the separatists, we have Alexander Baradei, who says, yes, they're not Russians, but they share much of the same ideology. And you know, sometimes representatives of the North Caucasus turn out to be even more Russian than Russians themselves. That's a pretty self-serving quote there. Yes, they share all the same ideological arguments of you. They're not trying to pave the way for Vladimir Putin to take control of the territory. They just agree with you when it comes to political philosophy. But at least they're finally admitting that they have support from outside of Ukraine. Now, when you talk to the actual leader of Chechnya right now, this is Ramzan Kadyrov, he says, Ukrainian sources have been circulating reports that some Chechen units from Russia have invaded Donetsk. I officially declare that this is not true. And he goes on to say, there are 3 million Chechens and 2/3 of them live outside the Chechen Republic, including in the West. We cannot know and are not supposed to know where each of them goes. Now, that is a fair point, I suppose. He is not in control of everything that goes on there. Considering the fact that he's basically a puppet of Moscow, I doubt he has much control at all of what goes on there. But I don't believe that these are patriotic Chechens who want to go get involved in Ukrainian politics. If anything, I don't see why they would be interested at all in supporting the political and military goals of Vladimir Putin. They have, after all, been engaged in an incredibly bloody war against Putin for a long time. That's cooled off a bit in the past few years, but there are still at least 100, I believe in 2013, there were like 97 terrorist attacks inside of Chechnya, 97 service members, I should say, of Russia that died there. So I can't imagine that they would be supporting them. If Chechen forces are being shipped from Chechnya to these cities in East Ukraine, and if they're fighting effectively in support of the Moscow agenda, then I have to imagine that they're being sent there by the man who was installed by Moscow. That seems to make sense. I am by no means an expert on Chechen politics or even Ukrainian politics, but it seems to make sense, at least from our outsiders' point of view. Overall, the situation has, over the past week, become much worse in Ukraine. The photographs have been reaching America of just bodies laying in the streets. Many of these cities have been being shelled by mortars. You've heard gunfire. The Ukrainian military is doing what they can to try to reestablish order, flying jets over these cities, but their actual ability to project force into these cities is still limited.